Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be checking out a video titled "Why Was There No German Mafia in the US History?" I don't know. I know they got Italian Mafia. I think that's probably the most popular known mafia. So without further ado, let's get right into this video, man. Link for the original video will be in the description, so go check it out. And thank you for watching this video. Please do like and subscribe, and any recommendations, feel free to leave those in the comment section down below as well.
The Mafia, Italians, Irish, Russians, Jews, Mexicanos. Throughout US history, every minority group in America has established a formidable mafia at one time. Except one. The Germans. So why was there never a German mafia in American history? You may have never noticed, but the lack of a German mafia is a curious gap in American history, as logically it definitely should exist. You see, between 1840 and 1890, the Germans were the largest single ethnic group immigrating to the United States. For over 50 years, millions of Germans washed ashore in New York and Boston like algae overgrowing a warm lake. Indeed, during several key battles of the US Civil War, native Germans speaking zero English filled out entire regiments in the Union Army, the 52nd of New York, 9th of Iowa, and 74th Pennsylvania, to name just a few. So vast were the waves of German bodies crashing on America's shores every year that of approximately 516,000 Union soldiers, 200,000 were born in the German Confederation.
Dang.
And after the war, it did not stop. Between 1880 and 1890, another 1,500,000 Germans immigrated to the US, by this time forcing the Garfield administration to grapple assimilating the largest share of foreign-born people in the United States in her entire history. And only 3 years later, by 1893, over 800 German-language journals were being printed in the United States every month. It may seem hard to believe now, but more Germans fled Europe for America than Irish and Italians combined. By 1930, 1 in 10 US citizens were German Americans, and mafias had spread their roots deep into American society. You see, at the dawn of the 20th century, there were many lucrative mafias, including the Cosa Nostra, Italian, the Kosher Nostra, Jewish, the Hudson Mobsters, Irish, the Purple Gang, Jewish, the West Side Mob, Irish, and the infamous Russian Mafia,
Солнцевская братва.
Bingo. However, crucially, there were no sauerkraut kids. Despite vast overwhelming immigration and a shared sense of cultural identity, or a language at least, the Germans never developed a mafia in the United States. Why? Well, the answer is unclear. It's never been studied. ChatGPT won't give you a good answer. However, from our investigation, German-American immigrants can be divided into 2 categories. During the 19th century, when millions of German speakers were traveling to the New World, the majority were Southern Germans from rural farms, while a minority were Northern German political exiles, like the 48ers. And once they arrived in the US, rather than settling in port cities in New York and Boston, like their European comrades, they instead chose to move largely west of the Appalachians. Germans chose farming in newly created states like Ohio, Indiana, and Wisconsin. This unique decision led early Germans to live largely excluded from America's new developing industrial city life. And as the Germans primarily worked on large farms, it meant new German immigrants lived large physical distances from other German immigrants. And this trend continued well into the 1900s, until many rural towns were I
mean, if you're living far away from, the closest person to you culturally or whatever, hard to have relations with that person.
primarily German-speaking and culturally Protestant. A map of demographics in 2023 shows how this unique German migration pattern birthed and primarily shaped what we now call the American Midwest, a region culturally distinct from other parts of America. While Irish and Italian Americans densely clustered around Boston, birthed and primarily...
Man, I wish he had showed the...
And this trend continued well into the 1900s, until many rural towns were primarily German-speaking and culturally Protestant. A map of demographics in 2023 shows how this unique German migration...
Gosh, man. Whoa, there's they literally have the finish on there as well. That is crazy. Wow. Wild.
pattern birthed and primarily shaped what we now call the American Midwest, a region culturally distinct from other parts of America. While Irish and Italian Americans densely clustered around Boston and Russian Jews set up in New York and later Florida, Germans at the time chose to spread thinly over a vast area of the Republic. And this decentralized life made it less likely a family or families could seize power and set up a centralized economic structure like the Mafia. Additionally, because Germans, compared to other Europeans, earned their living from farming and rural trade, far away from the epicenter of American industry, it's likely they didn't experience the extreme levels of discrimination their Irish and Italian brothers did, like being cut out of labor jobs. Therefore, they likely felt less of a necessity to organize into hierarchies like the Italians and Irish did in order to open illicit businesses where they could earn a living in the city and provide for their families, in the more libertarian markets like gambling, drug running, prostitution, and racketeering. But finally, the total lack of a German mafia could rest on perception, as outside Chicago, all major American cities during the Gilded Age were located on the East Coast. And since metropolitan life took place far away from the heartland, what nefarious activities did occur 1,000 miles away on the Great Lakes or Great Plains were of little concern to the average American, let alone the wealthy, prior to the automobile, telephone, or radio. It's likely any German criminal organizations that did occur went less documented by newspapers and police, as at the time these institutions existed mainly in large cities, where the Irish, Italian...
It's kind of hard to think about it that back then it was really articles in newspapers that really did all the information telling. Like, it's crazy how we're in a time of misinformation or disinformation, whichever the word is, right? However, it's so easy to actually, have false information propagate or just spread false information. Back when it was only newspapers, like, it's so easy to find the truth now, but it's also easy to find lies. It's crazy.
Jews were already attracting focus and operating. Indeed, almost as a corollary to the millions of poor Germans settling the Midwest, the rich, educated Germans did prefer the cities. People like Albert Einstein, Fritz Lang, Marlene Dietrich, Hans Hofmann, Walter Kroppes, Kurt Weill, Franz Boas, Max Weber. Again, however, these German immigrants faced less discrimination to earning a living, as they were able to write or teach for a living rather than forced to sell their labor. Over time, this meant the German-American organization that did occur in the United States was often frequently more political than economic, a la Mafia in nature. By the 1930s, German-American thinkers and writers had had more time to unify their brethren on political or scientific causes, like teaching physics at the University of Chicago, brewing beer in Milwaukee, or goose-stepping in New York City. Ironically, in a karmic twist of fate, in the US, it would be the Jewish Mafia that beat Germans senseless during Adolf Hitler's rise to power.
Sie sollen uns in Ruhe lassen!
You see, by 1930, 12 million German immigrants lived in the US, and some 1 in 500 were active members of the German-American Bund. The Bund thrived as a national organization that supported Adolf Hitler and pledged allegiance to the new Reich. And on a crisp day in October 1938, many American Nazis marched excitedly to a rally on New York's Upper East Side, the heart of the historic German town in New York City. After the American Bund Nazi rally finished, members gathered into a swastika-laden ballroom to hear Albert Kuhn, a fervent Hitler supporter, deliver what would have been, I'm sure, a pathos-invoking speech. But it never happened. According to news reports at the time, a Mr. Mayor Lansky and his Jewish gangster friends, along with a group called Murder Inc., quietly arrived at the rally, broke into 3 groups, and surrounded the building. As Kuhn gathered his notes to give his talk, 5 Jewish gangsters entered the ballroom's 2nd floor, while 5 more waited outside with pool cues and baseball bats. In the back of the room, Mr. Lansky and his Jewish men entered, listened briefly to the Nazi speech, and then unleashed mayhem. A first-hand witness of the event said men who knew how to march were fighting men who knew how to hurt. Quickly scattered about lay injured Nazis everywhere. Some lay unconscious from being pummeled in the head. The gangsters' only agreement with the New York police was apparently not to kill anyone, a goal they only barely accomplished. After beating one Bund member semi-conscious, members of Murder Inc. tossed the man out a 2nd-story window. It seems farming and philosophy would only take German Americans so far in this life. So the absent German Mafia in American history is a curious question without a single answer. Nonetheless, German immigrants' unique migration patterns and economic background, being mainly farmers, thinkers, or Nazis, rather than laborers, likely led to less of a need for organized crime.
Yeah, exactly, because obviously if you're, doing some farming or whatever, like, why would you start to organize crime? Nobody's going to chastise you for farming and doing some teaching in schools. Like, ain't nobody gonna get at you.
Or a German mafia. If you found this video as interesting as I did researching it, please...
Nah, I did enjoy that video, man. Go show some love to the original video, man. That was very interesting, man. Shout out to Germany and your history regarding the United States, because out of all European countries, yeah, you have a lot of impact on the United States. Outside of the United Kingdom, I think Germany might be right there in second place in terms of, connection to the United States. But, the United Kingdom will always have that because, I don't have to tell you much, but the history of the United States are really, it's the UK. Yeah, you get the whole point, man. England. Yeah, we get the point. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching this video. I'm out of here. Peace.